The image behind me here was acquired by instruments on the Hubble Space Telescope, probably one of the most famous of all astronomical instruments. The Hubble telescope was launched from the cargo bay of the Space Shuttle Discovery on the 24th of April 1990, and between then and now its observations have rewritten the textbooks in just about every area of astronomy, astrophysics and cosmology. The idea of putting a telescope in space is not new. It goes back to just after the Second World War. In 1946, the Yale University astronomer Lyman Spitzer Jr. put forward the idea that if we could put a telescope in space, it would have much clearer views of distant objects in the universe because it would be free from the image-distorting effects of Earth's continually moving atmosphere. The Hubble telescope is orbiting the Earth 335 miles above the ground, and so it's well clear of most of that atmosphere. It takes about 95 minutes to complete each orbit. Now, since the telescope was launched in 1990, it has obviously had a number of problems, and there have been instruments that have needed servicing, maintenance, and even in some cases replacement. And that has been carried out by astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle on a number of so-called servicing missions. The last of these was in 2009, and there won't be another one because the Space Shuttle has now been retired. The work carried out by the astronauts on those servicing missions has been absolutely vital in keeping the telescope in tip-top working order and making sure that the instruments were able to contribute observations that would establish the telescope at the forefront of astronomical research. Now, this particular image is an important one. It was released to celebrate the 25th birthday of the launch of Hubble, and that was back in April 2015. It shows a star cluster, a young star cluster, in our own Milky Way galaxy, about 20,000 light years away in the direction of the southern constellation of Carina the Keel. Now, the thing about young star clusters like this is that they are shrouded in dense clouds of swirling gas and dust. And that's very hard to see through. And so this particular image is a combination of visible light observations from the advanced camera for surveys and near-infrared observations from the Wide Field Camera 3, two of the instruments on board Hubble. Now, the large number of reddish stars near the middle here, and there's about 3,000 of them, those stars are very young, no more than 2 million years old, and in many cases they are probably not yet fired up. In other words, nuclear fusion, the conversion of hydrogen to helium in their cores, has not yet begun, and it is that fusion reaction that will sustain them throughout their lives. Scattered around the picture, there are these blue-white stars, and those are stars in the foreground between us and the cluster. Now, young stars like this, many of them are very massive, they produce lots of ultraviolet radiation and very strong stellar winds, streams of electrically charged particles that pour out from the young stars. And the combination of that radiation and the stellar winds tends to push away surrounding material into interstellar space. And over time, a large cluster of stars like this will excavate a cavern in the surrounding material. And you can see the edge of that cavern very clearly in this picture. Now, the material surrounding the gas and dust will be of varying densities, and some of it will be fairly easy to push out the way, and some of it not so easy. And so what you get is you get these dusty pillars or fingers pushing out, and they sort of project towards the cluster. And these are the parts that have been harder to erode, and each of those fingers is about a light year or so in extent. To me, these dusty pillars always remind me of stalactites and stalagmites that we find on the inside of a cavern here on Earth. And they really are a rather beautiful sight. This image, as I say, was released to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the launch of Hubble. And now, in 2020, we're coming up to the 30th anniversary of the launch of the telescope. In April 2020, the scientists in ESA, NASA, and the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, they are already working on a new image, another spectacular view of the cosmos that will celebrate the 30th birthday of this remarkable scientific instrument. I wonder what that image will be like.